In this episode, I'm in Las Vegas. Hi, I'm Steve, and for as long as I can remember, I wanted to be somebody. I grew up in a small town and went to school in the valley. Now I'm in the big city, working at a fast-paced company, run by a guy you might know. Here I learned that while we all dream of success, what really matters is the journey. This is my story. Hey everybody, I'm your host Steve Campbell. Welcome to the Ascent episode 2. 2 episodes in now. This officially makes it a series. I'm really happy with how this began. I knew that I had a great support system around me with my coworkers and friends and family, but I didn't realize to the extent that really reached. I'm still trying to figure out what I want this to be, but I know that I'm documenting my journey, right? So here I am. It's what time is it? It's 7 a.m. in the morning here in Las Vegas. I'm traveling for work. VaynerMedia. I don't get to travel too often for my clients, but whenever I do, I feel like it's somewhere cool. It's fun. It's a lot of work. We're hustling out here, but you gotta find time to make it work if you're trying to do a little side hustle action, create your own content, that kind of thing. So I touched a little last time on that I felt like I could really bring value in this format, and I wanted to expand on that a little bit just to start off this one. Video is an interesting thing. I think heading into 2017, video is the medium that everyone's spending their time on. That part has never been more clear to any of us. One thing that's really interesting, we had some kids come into the office the other day from Baruch College to ask us a bunch of questions, and me and a couple other creatives were in there, and it was just really interesting to hear their questions. They all studied entrepreneurship or digital marketing or things like that, and a lot of them were asking about different mediums. One of them was like a DJ or something, and he wanted to learn how to, with the short attention spans out there, how do I get my content in front of people? How do I get people to listen to my album or my song? And I was straight with them. I mean, content is king is what I told them. If your content's good enough, people will consume it, whether it's 3 minutes or 30 minutes. The question is, how do you get that at bat with them? And the answer is, do it in as many ways as possible. So you may be a DJ and you may be putting out music, but that doesn't mean that you should stick to just SoundCloud to reach people. So really, I think, and I think in part this is why I chose to do video instead of just solely writing, is you just need to diversify how you're getting out there and reaching people. If I'm putting out an album, which would be amazing if I could ever do that, if I were musically talented at all. If I were ever putting out an album, what I would do is I would put the full album up somewhere on SoundCloud or whatever, and then I would take snippets of that, and then I would create content on apps like Musical.ly and Instagram and Facebook, and talk about short attention span, make them 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 60 seconds. I think the key is to distribute all that content you can in microform, and then really make it easy for anyone who's interested or catches interest at all in your work to find the rest of it. I think everybody has a short attention span. Like, it's tough for me to even film this video without picking up my phone and checking it every 10 seconds. So that's just the world we live in now. You just got to, make hay while the sun is shining, as they say. You got to, put in work in different places and then double down in those areas that it's really working out for you. And what's interesting, I think, when you find that and you realize that, if you're going down through the App Store top 100 list every day, for instance, like we tend to do at work, you'll discover things that bubble up over time. The Snapchats that sort of rise to fame as they come out, and you never know where you can build an audience that previously didn't even exist. Emerging tech has always been a thing that's been interesting around the company. We look at these emerging companies and we realize that the early days and the speed and whoever's fastest to get there and do something cool, oftentimes will at the very least get press out of it and get some earned media, as we say. And then at most, you could really build a real following there if it blows up to be something just from being first and doing something really cool. It's just really important to keep testing the waters and doing things. And I think as a content creator and as a personal brand, I think it's really important as well, because you have way less limitations than a normal brand does. Vine was in the news because Twitter's shutting it down recently. I mean, that's the other end of it. You never know when one of these things is going to go away. So, Gary always says, don't be romantic about how you make your money. And I think that applies to a lot of things. And I think one of the things it applies to is don't be romantic about how you build an audience. Vine was one of the very early platforms, and I think the reason that people got so famous on there so fast is just because it was really hard to make a quality Vine. Several of us would spend days or weeks, I feel like, of our life trying to make 6-second Vines in stop motion form, whatever, because it was just really difficult to really master and get down and do something that was really cool looking and different. So the people that were really good at it early on were the ones that really reaped all the benefits, because it became very obvious to everyone else that used the platform that they had a real talent and real skill. So there was recently, our company was on 60 Minutes a little bit with Gary, and they were talking about social influencers, and they had Logan Paul on there, and Logan Paul's a perfect example of a guy who I don't know if he built an audience before Vine, but I only knew him from Vine originally, and he blew up on the platform, but he didn't stick to just Vine. He is now a huge YouTube celebrity and a huge Twitter celebrity, and he works with brands and he puts out video content everywhere, so everyone knows who he is. And now he lands on a 60 Minutes spot. That's no coincidence. You can't put all your eggs in one basket. You need to be thinking about these things if you're creating content, especially if you're trying to create a personal brand. And that's something that I've really taken away in the last few weeks while all this news has been happening, and while I'm trying to do this and build my thing. So that's where I'll leave you in episode 2. I didn't want to make this as long as the first one. I'm just experimenting, and I know time is the ultimate asset, so I don't want to cost people time if I'm not providing value. So hopefully this provided you a little value. If you have any questions or comments, you want to continue the conversation, hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, Vine, while it still exists, anywhere. If you're trying to build something long term, you got to figure out how to diversify and spread out the wealth.